Hello and welcome to another Arty Mouse film, everybody. This week we're going to talk about portraiture. So I've done a basic film on facial proportion, where the eyes are, where the nose are, where things sit on the face. But this week we're going to talk in a little bit more detail about how to work with a portrait. So towards the end of the film there's going to be some tasks that you can work on, some ways of drawing the face in different contexts so that you can just practice. So it gives you some ideas of what to do and how to practice. But for the first half of this film we're going to do a little draw along. So you need a copy of this, which is The Lady of Shalott by John William Waterhouse, and you will need various pencils and some paper, and I am going to draw and in real time and talk to you about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, why it works, why it's just the way I do things, and you can follow along with me, so feel free to pause as you go along and catch up with me and draw along with me. So pause now, get yourself your equipment, get yourself a copy of The Lady of Shalott on your laptop screen or print one off to work with, and follow me. So I'm starting with a 2B, and all I'm going to do for now is map out some construction lines. All I'm thinking about right now is the shape of her face without the hair, just that shape that goes up to a point at the top there. There's a vague shape. Now I'm going to work into that with a little bit more detail. So I'm coming in for the eyes. Okay, the chin slightly wrong there. Move that up a bit. Okay, it's a good idea to rub out as you go along with these lines, just simply because you don't want to confuse yourself. So that's my very basic shape. Just going in straight lines. It really doesn't matter at this point about detail on any level, okay? A lot of people make the mistake that they want to start in with the details, so they will start with, say, her right eye here and just work into that and make it perfect and then keep working round. The difficulty with that, of course, is your proportions later on. So if you do a fabulous drawing of an eye and then a fabulous drawing of a nose, but then you realise one of them's in the wrong place, then that's a lot of time you've wasted. So just work in with the basics to get the things in the right place before you do anything else. So I'm still working in here. I'm going to work in this eye shape. Now I'm looking at this eye shape in terms of negative space. I'm not thinking where's the nose, where's the eye. I'm thinking this dark shape here, what shape is it? That's all I'm thinking right now. What shape is this? I think I've gone a bit, it's better. Okay, comes down a bit further, comes to about there. Right, so I'm correcting as I go along because obviously you're feeling your way as you go. Alright, so again now I'm thinking about the negative space that's between her cheekbone and the bottom of her nose to the bottom of her mouth, to the edge of her mouth. Right. So I'm going to go back up to the nose, marking the edge of it. It comes to about there. And again, I'm not going to think about the shape of the nose here, I'm thinking about the dark shape that I've got on the bottom of the nose and between that and the lips. So I'm going to go back there. helps to flatten things out in your mind and think about shapes rather than forms, if that makes sense. You think about what dark shape is that, what light shape is that, not what do the lips look like or what does the nose look like. At this point you're just thinking in terms of shape and tone. Okay, it'll free you up a little bit. Alright, so the shadow of that eye comes to about there, goes all the way across. There's her eyebrow shape. Is that higher? It is higher. Right, so my first line there is wrong because I've just realised that her eyebrow there is higher slightly than that one, so I'm correcting that as I go. Alright, so you can actually start to see the shape of the face coming through now. And all I'm going to do now to put in the next sort of level of detail, I'm marking vaguely where her hair goes. Might lose her off the edge of the page, not sure yet. Oh, not quite going to lose her. Good. Alright, so when you start working in details, the best thing to do to get them into the right place is to think about where they are in relation to everything else. So I can now look at the original face, and if I were to draw a line straight down from the edge of the nose, you can see on my drawing and on the original that the lips come further out slightly than that line across vertically there. So I know I've got that in the right place. Just shy of the edge of the face there. Right, so what I've got in there is that dark shadow, so I'm now going to move that line so it shows me the lips. Bump on the nose there, okay. And where the little bump on her nose is, that's where the top of the eyelid sits. So I'm starting to see now that I've marked out this slightly wrong, but that's okay because we're still in the very early stages, so it's all about correcting and making it right when you need to. Don't be precious about anything on your drawing. If it's wrong and it's got to go. Right. See a little bit of that eye, the rest is very dark, so that's all I'm going to put in for now for that eye. Again, we're about construction lines as you go if they're no longer relevant, because all you do is confuse your brain if you leave them there. Alright, so that's a bit more effective shape there, that's not quite right, straighten that out. So you'll see that very first, when I started there, my marks were very, very light, because the lighter you draw, the easier it is to rub out and correct things. But now that I'm going in with a bit more detail, I'm making those lines a little stronger now. Around this eye now. Okay, so the bottom of her eye is kind of level with just over the point of the nose there. So I've reorganised the shadow around that eye because I think now, based on the information I've got here, I can work out this a little better, because the more information you have, the easier it is to use as a grid. So I've spoken to you before about using a grid to work out where things sit. But the more information you've got on your drawing, the easier it is to map out where other things are, simply because you can use them as a reference. So I know that the top of this eye is not quite level with the other eye because of what I can see. I know that the side of the eye here is just shy of the lip line here in the original. So I can now map things out where they are based on the information I've already put in. It's a bit far here, there we go. It's better. All right. As well, if I measure that edge of the eyebrow there against the original, then it comes up from the nose line. It doesn't go past it, so now I can work out where that's coming from. Okay, so I've got a shadow line here that starts long before the hair does. So again, always work with what you see, not what you think you see. Okay, for example, my copy of this painting is not, it's a little bit pixely to be fair, and I'm drawing what I see. So I don't really know what the hair looks like there. I know I've just got a dark shadow here. That then hits that hairband. So I'm drawing what I see. There is no point in me making things up. Because what happens when you make stuff up with a drawing like this is it's just going to be wrong. So always rely on and trust what you can actually see. No matter how weird it looks, that's the problem people have, I think. They don't trust what they see, and that's when you run into problems. You've got to trust what you've got in front of you and copy it directly for it to work. If you start improvising because of what you think should be there, that's when it starts to get messy. So again, I'm measuring out this bit of hair I've just done here. I can see that you've got a parting, and I've just worked out where it comes in terms of the eye there. I know that it goes through that first third of the eye, so that's where I've put it. Okay, no matter where I think it should be, that's where it actually is. And again, where the hair fades away in the background, it marks up with, actually marks up about there at the bottom of the nose, so I've not trusted my eye there and gone to actually test it out against the rest of the drawing, against my map, and realised I was in the wrong place. So this is what happens all the time. Alright, so now we've marked out a basic face. And the thing that helps when you're working on something like this and you're going to have a pencil drawing, a tonal drawing, it'll really help if what you're copying from is tonal as well. So quite often when I'm doing a pencil drawing, I will make sure I've got a black and white copy of the picture, because if it takes the colour away, it takes a lot of the confusion away about what tone you need to do things. So again, left-hander, so I'm going to start at the top right here, work my way across that way. If you were right-handed, you would start up here, perhaps with this eye and this forehead here, and work your way down to the lips. But because I'm left-handed, I'm going to go this way, so I'm going to start with this eye and this piece here, because although we haven't got a lot of detail, we have got what I call a scaffolding now. We've got everything in its right place. It's not drawn very well yet, but it's in the right place, so I can now trust what I've done and work into it with the darker tones and the lighter tones, knowing that everything is in the right place in relation to everything else, because the lines I've drawn in my head to work out where things are. Now when it comes to shading, start lightly, always start very lightly and work your way to the darker tones, because if you start very dark you will often get it wrong or not be able to rub it out. You'll want to change it and you'll have ghosts of what you've done everywhere. So start very lightly in some of the lighter areas and start your shading. So I'm going to work in this skin tone first of all, as you can see. And when I shade, a lot of people when they shade they want, particularly with skin, for it to be very smooth and very soft, and I don't do that. So it's fine if you don't agree with me and you don't think that's what I should be doing, then so be it. Again, I'm always just showing you what I do. I like to see pencil marks. I generally work with cross-hatching in different directions until I've got the tone I want, and then I move along and making sure I do different tones, different directions of mark making. At this point it is important to get rid of any kind of construction lines because they will come through into your shading. So her forehead is quite light. It gets darker underneath the hairline. A lot of people use blending stumps and things when it comes to shading. I'm a bit against smudging things as I see it. I just don't like the way it looks. But if you do and you want to work that way, I am not here to stop you. I'm not here to judge at all. Okay, so I've got the shadow that goes under her hair here. I'm just going to put that in because I want to blend it into that lighter shadow I'm making here. Don't worry about the hair later. We'll have a chat about hair later on in the film when I get to that bit. So for now, that's my forehead in. Now I've got darker, there's a darker mark around the top of the nose. Keep working on my cross hatching. Very, very gently, again, light marks all the time. You're better off doing light marks again and again and again until you get the tone you want. Okay, take that line away. Okay, line on the side of her nose there. I put it in, but I need to take it away now because the only reason you can see the edge of her nose there is because of the shading. There's no actual line around her nose. So we now need to rub that out and think about it in terms of tone. Alright, so that's just the tone on her nose, which lightens out. Alright, and that looks a lot better than it would have done if I'd left that line there. Right. So obviously the top of her nose has light shining on it and is very pale. One of the lightest bits of the face, the top of the nose there. So we're leaving that alone. This bit as well on her cheek, the top of her cheek is very light. So again, make sure the lines aren't there that don't need to be there. The darkness of the eye goes all the way down to the tip of her nose there. Darker tones in a minute, but I'm just going to leave myself a note, as it were. Top of her cheek is quite pale, but it comes into a darker area down here. I'm not going to carry on with lighter tones in this bottom half for now because I'm going to smudge that. When I come back up to do darker tones, I will smudge her cheek there. So now that I've worked this bit in with the very pale tones, I'm going to keep going and work in the next layer. Again, I've still got my 2B at this point, but I will bring in a 4B soon because it's easier to get darker tones. I'm marking in the tones with a 2B here, and there are limits to what you can do with a certain pencil. So there's a point where I'm going to start shading, like this top bit here that I'm doing. I can't get that any darker no matter how hard I try with the 2B, so I'm not going to. I will leave it as it is, and then I'm going to come back in with a 4B in a bit. And so I'm just going to soften that line, it's a bit harsh. So there is no way that eye is dark enough yet. So now, just digging around, 4B. Alright, so that's very dark where she's actually looking. So now, if I go with a 4B, you can see the one simple line there has gone way past the darkness of the other one. So how are you doing? I hope this is being helpful for you. I hope that you're following along with me, because that's the whole point of this video. I wanted you to follow on and work with me. Pause the video at any point you like, so that you can catch up if you need to, or you can correct yourself and then join back in. But I hope overall what you're doing is having a bit of fun with this. Okay, so I'm now going to go across to the other eye. Again, I've got a lot of construction lines going on there, so I'm just going to get rid of those. So more darker tones in this eye as well, than we've had before. But again, blend it into the tones that are next to it by keeping going in different directions. So it's more dark under her eye as well. I'm just making in my skin tones here. I'll worry about the eye in a minute. You don't want to feel like you've outlined things, because you don't have an outline. This painting doesn't have an outline around her face. You're not a cartoon. So any opportunity you've got to get rid of any kind of construction line, do it, because you don't want to see through. Alright, so I'm just going to work in with darker pencil here, because I've reached my limit. Again, like I did with the other eye, I kind of reached the limit of what that 2B pencil is going to be doing in terms of how dark it goes. So, she's got very dark eyes, because she's so haunted and unhappy. Bless her. She's not a happy bunny. Okay, just put a bit there. Anyway, now I already know that her iris is completely black, essentially. Again, draw what you see, not what you think you see. There is no pupil in the middle of this eye. All we can see on the original drawing is a great black space. So that is what you're going to put in here. That's all you need. And again, the whites of her eyes are still probably darker than the skin tones we did up there. Thank you, Hamlet. So the whites of her eyes aren't very bright, so darken those. Oh, the cat's upset about something. Oh dear. Sorry guys, she's hungry. Yeah. It's not even dinner time, is it? No. Okay. So again, there's not much going on this side of her eye. It is really quite dark. So don't worry about detail there. I'm not worried about that bit. I'm worried about what I can see, and I can only see a dark shape, so that's what I've put in. I've covered up pretty much the corner of her eye there with a dark tone, because that's all I can see. Alright, so we have her eyes. So now I'm going to go on to the nose underneath. Okay, so pause me here if you're still working on the eyes, and then we'll start working on the nose. So we've already got the lighter tones that we need on the top half of the nose there, and the bottom of the nose and the upper part of the lip. I can't remember what it's called, that little bit, a little bit there, can't remember what it's called, that bit there, and the top of the bottom of the nose kind of blend together little bit in this. So all you need to think about, again, forget that it's a nose, don't intimidate yourself, and just think, what tones can I see in this area? Further in, there we are. Dark line is there, the dark tone is there, but not that far up. So we're building up the line there that's darker than the skin behind it. I sometimes find it helps to make portraits at where the face is at funny angles, because it's actually easier. You may remember last week I was talking about hands and drawing hands, and I talked about this, that a hand that is bunched up or, you know, at a funny angle or whatever, it's far easier to draw than a flat hand like that, because you can use your reference points that we were talking about to work out where things are. And it also helps in terms of the shading. If you can kind of forget what you're looking at and just think about the tones and where they are, then you can do a more effective drawing. I'd like to take this to a bit darker there. We're getting there. She's still got a bit of a piggy nose, but it's not dark enough. That's part of the problem. Alright, so I'm going to work in now again with my 4B. Better. Okay. Looks a little bit odd at the moment, I grant you. She's like, needs to wipe her face. But still. So again, back to my 2B. I'm going to now start thinking about these lips, which again are often just as dark as the eye. So I'm just going to check my construction lines, re-familiarise myself with it. So now I'm working a little bit more detail with my construction for the lips. Going back in, checking what I've got, checking it's right, adding more detail where I need to. Again, thinking about it in terms of tones, not what it is. It's kind of dividing it up into the tone areas. That's the inside of her mouth, the upper lip, the lower lip, and the shadow. But just in terms of tones, not what's actually there. So now I'm going to, with my 2B, those lighter areas. And always moving the pencil in different directions. Okay. Now I can afford to do these construction lines around the lips here because I know that it's going to be very dark area. So my construction lines aren't really going to come through here at this point. The skin around them as well. About it as a whole, really. So now I'm going to go in with the darker pencil. Start with that very dark tone in the middle. Blend it out so it fits with what I've already put there. So the shadow underneath the lip kind of blends into the lip. It's kind of part of it, really. So you need to take that into account when you're drawing it. Blend it into those paler shadows. So it kind of fits in the space with the rest of the face. I think I'm going to take a 6B to this in a minute. I think I've reached the limits with my 4B. Right, that darker area comes up further. Alright, so I think I'm happy with that. Okay, so put the 6B away. To be used sparingly. Dangerous weapon. Alright, so now I'm back to skin tones with the cheek area. So less is going to be more in this area. It's just a case of going back like you did with the forehead. Remember how I said go in very light marks in different directions and keep building the tones by being very light to start with and darkening as you go along. And just got a little dark line under her chin, which I need to blend into that paler area. Different direction, all the time, building it up. Lighter tones. So almost you can't see them a lot of the time. And it kind of lightens up, so there's virtually nothing on this top area here. Because that again is where the sunlight is falling from this direction. Because it's hitting the top of her nose, the top of that cheek, the top of that cheek more than, and the chin more than anything else. Always think about the direction the light is coming from in a picture. It'll really help you figure out what to do with it. And again, I quite like to see my pencil marks. You may not. You may be working with a blending stump or be working with charcoal or chalk for this. It's entirely your decision. I like to see my pencil marks. Now we're going into that neck area, which is a lot darker because obviously the sun is coming from here, so you've got a shadow under your chin. I'm not going to go very far down here because this is about the portrait. So just going to work. Now we can be a bit bolder with the marks if you're doing a larger, darker area. And again, that's about as far as I can go with my 2B. I don't expect it to get any darker than that. So I'm going to swap for my 4B. Into it. Again, keep moving in different directions as we build this up. I may even need my 6B again in a minute. I haven't decided yet. Just keep building and building and building. As I say, pause this video as you go along, and as you copy, I am going to go with 6B because that bit there is very, very dark. Okay, so yeah, keep following me along, keep pausing as you get to a bit. If I'm moving too fast, I tend to do that because my hand is just doing what it does, and I'm trying to explain myself as I go along. So if I am going a bit fast, then feel free to pause it. Okay. Hello everybody, I'm just going to interrupt Today Me with Tomorrow Me just for a moment. We'll get back to Today Me in a moment, but this is Tomorrow Me making an apology because yesterday's me made a mistake, I think. Anyway. When I was drawing on camera yesterday, I was drawing at a slight angle, not flat, so that the camera could see what I was doing over my shoulder. And I've realised that in doing that, I have stretched the Lady of Shalott that way, and she looks a little odd when you look at her straight on. When I was painting her, I was looking at her like that, which is a bit more effective than when she's like that. So I'm going to do some corrections at the end. We're going to go back to yesterday's me, today's me in a minute. But at the end of today's me, you'll see another tomorrow me. They'll be correcting the mistakes I made yesterday when I was today me. Does that make sense? I have no idea. Anyway, so we'll carry on doing the hair from the Lady of Shalott. But at the end of that, you'll have a little bit of film that is the corrections I'm going to make because of the wrong angle. So back to yesterday, back to today me. I've got the hair coming down. However, alright, and people tend to scribble because they're thinking, oh, there's a lot of space to fill here. I don't quite know how to do it, so I'm just going to scribble it in. And they're thinking about, you know, what a large space it is and not much else. Okay, and that's where people fall down, because the thing you've got to do, you will then see lots of points where you've come back and forth. So when you're drawing hair, you need to keep going in the same direction, first of all. And you also need to keep thinking about it in terms of the source. Alright, so hair tends to stick up before it falls down. You go in the right direction. And again, when you're building up darker tones, just keep going in the same direction, building it up. Alright, so that's what we're going to do here. So I'm taking my 4B to work into the hair. In the opposite way to doing the facial features and the body working from lighter to darker, I'm actually going to work the other way around here. So I'm going to start with areas that are darker, and I'm only going to go in one direction. And I'm thinking about each time your pencil touches, you are drawing an individual hair. And the way it flows from the back of the head. Right, so I'm working in a lot my darker areas that I can see. Work in the detail around this face so I get that right first of all. Look where it is. So with darker areas you can go in a different direction just to mark yourself in the right way to start with, because your marks aren't going to affect. Alright. Work your way out from those darker points. Just going to put, it helps when you're drawing as well to not, if you don't want to smudge what you've already done, if you've got to go over, put your hand over a bit you've already done, then find a bit of scrap paper . Just so that you don't smudge things. So I'm working a little headband here. Okay, so now I've got something to work with. I'll do this top bit. Okay, so always follow the direction that the hair is falling in. Don't deviate from that ever, because that's where it'll fall down. So I've not got a lot of detail in my picture at this point, so I'm kind of improvising a little bit. Okay. But it's very dark, that much I know. I can see darker and lighter tones. You quite often with hair will get darker and lighter areas where the sun is shining on it, an area. Kind of work in from your dark point to your light point, as if it's a focus. So on top of their heads a bit lighter because of the sun. Okay, all I can see on my copy of the image really is where it's darker and where it's lighter. So in terms of how the hair is growing and how it fits onto the image, I'm kind of making it up based on what I know, unfortunately. So this bit of hair would be being held in by the hairband here, so I'm just curving it in. Now this little bit by her face here, we marked in before this darker area, if you remember, when we were drawing out the construction lines for the face. So I'm just going to carry on with my 6B for now, because I know it's a much darker area. Again, I'm not making making it blocky. Trying to vary the tones within it as well. My drawing, my little photocopy I've got down here, you're going to have a copy of it on the screen, but I've got my little photocopy. And I can't really see the direction of the hair. I can just see darker and lighter tones, so I'm just kind of improvising slightly still. These darker tones, and it's getting lighter and lighter as it goes out. I'm going to go back to 4B. Put some of these halfway tones in. I'm trying to find a nice point to end your drawing at. Don't just let it stop. So again, with these tones in the neck, I like to bring in scribbly lines sometimes, just as an end point. My lighter tones on the head. Okay, so I'm starting to bring in some sort of stylistic qualities here. Just in some areas, just to get it finished off. When I'm working with the eraser, I'm still working it in terms of the direction the hair would go. Okay, so I'm going to go in backwards now for the lighter tones here, and go in with the eraser and just pull back some of those lighter tones. So I'm using the eraser as the pencil essentially. Just to lift it up a little bit. So now, as promised, we're going to do a few corrections because I've realised that I stretched her a little bit yesterday. So we need to sort out particularly the hairline. I think the face is okay, but this eye isn't and this hairline isn't. So I'm going to go back in and correct. I'm now going to show you 3 exercises you can do to help improve your portraiture skills. Find a photograph, Google something and print it off, or rip up a magazine. Cut it vertically and stick down 1/2 in your sketchbook. The right side if you're left-handed, the left side if you're right-handed. Use both pieces to fill in the gaps, recreating the rest of the portrait. This will help you particularly to get the proportions correct because you have to continue the lines from the original picture, and it helps you size things up correctly and gives you a helping hand.
The next exercise is a fun one that helps you to get away from the need for perfection and symmetry. You might need someone to help you initially, unless you have a patio door. Smush your face on a window, make it as weird as possible, and take a picture. Find a clean window, of course, and then clean it afterwards because, ew. Then copy that picture. It's very liberating because everything is all squashed in and messed up, and you stop thinking about creating something beautiful. You will copy what you see and not what you think you see. The last exercise will help you with tone. I'm sure you've seen Andy Warhol's work, or maybe that of Shepherd Fairey. These two artists divide tones into sections, creating a graphic image. So I've taken our portrait of the Lady of Shalott and drawn it thinking about 4 main tonal areas between the darkest and the lightest. I've made strong lines of division between these tones and then blocked them in. The result is quite strange, but it's a good exercise to do because you think about the levels of light you can see.
So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, drawing along with me and learning some more things about portraiture. If you haven't already, sign up for the Arty Mouse Art Tutorials Facebook group where we all post our pictures and get some critiques off other people and get some support from other people. It's a really supportive place to be, so come and join us. Join me on ArtyMouse76 at Instagram. And of course, sign up down below. There's a link where you can sign up for some free stuff. So sign up there and let me send you some things. Secrets every week, some tasks to do, and just general musings about the art world. Come and join me.